Namaste to all of you. I shall speak today to you about yoga philosophy. All of us know that yoga is becoming more and more popular in the world today, but this popularity is more practice oriented and more physical practice oriented. So we must put yoga in its proper perspective and start looking at what is the rational philosophical foundations of these practices, and therefore yoga philosophy. Philosophy is a Greek word made up of two words, philo and sophia, love of wisdom. In the Indian context, the term for philosophy is darshana, which means vision or insight, vision of reality, insight into truths. So, all Indian philosophies are attempts to gain an insight into what is the truth, what is the reality, what is the essence of everything. The same thing applies to yoga. Yoga darshana, yoga philosophy is an attempt to understand what is reality. Having said that, classical Indian philosophy is categorized into two branches, Astika and Nastika. Astika means philosophies which accept the authority of the Vedas. Nastika means philosophies which don't accept the authority of the Vedas. On the Nastika side, we have Buddhism, Jainism and Charvaka. On the Astika side, we have six philosophies: Vedanta, Mimamsa, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga. So you will automatically have noticed that yoga comes under the branch of Astika philosophies, orthodox philosophies which accept the authority of the Vedas. Out of these six philosophies, which are Astika or orthodox, they have a tendency of going in pairs. So Mimamsa and Vedanta go together, Nyaya, Vaisheshika goes together, Sankhya and Yoga go together. The pairing is done based upon the subject matter which is dealt with by the respective philosophies, as also the emphasis laid in the two elements of that pair. For example, if you take Yoga and Sankhya which go together, Sankhya is the theoretical side and Yoga is more physical side or practice oriented side, practical side. Sankhya philosophy provides the philosophical, metaphysical foundations for yoga practices. We can very well say that yoga is practical Sankhya and Sankhya is theoretical yoga. Without understanding Sankhya philosophy, we cannot understand yoga philosophy. Each of these six philosophies have one basic text, and that text is the form of a sutra. Incidentally, sutras are unique genres of Indian scriptures. So for Vedanta, we have Brahma Sutras. For Mimamsa, Mimamsa Sutras of Jaimini. Nyaya Sutras of Gautama. Then similarly, we have Vaisheshika Sutras of Kanada, Sankhya Sutras of sage Kapila, and for yoga, you have got Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Obviously, the point that I am taking you is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali form the basic text of yoga philosophy or yoga darshana. Before I go into the philosophy per se of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the point to be noted is that all Indian philosophies except the Charvakas have only one goal, and that goal is the removal or elimination of sufferings from human life, dukkha nirodha. And all of them provide or are attempts to provide ways and means of once for all eliminating sufferings in human life. I am emphasizing this point because today we take to yoga for getting rid of physical problems, and slightly evolved persons take to yoga towards eliminating mental problems for physical and mental health. But the point that I am trying to make is that yoga can remove all the sufferings in human life. Physical and mental sufferings are small parts of the total sufferings. So yoga can provide much more than what we are actually entering into yoga today. In fact, as a teacher of yoga, I have seen that most of the time people come for doing yoga because of suffering from one or two ailments, and they're trying to find out some solutions for their ailments, some remedies for their ailments, so they come to yoga. It is like entering into a supermarket and trying to buy a pin. A supermarket can provide you a plane, whereas you are coming there for a small pin there. My point is, yoga can provide much, much more than what we are actually looking for, and this we can understand only when we understand yoga philosophy. That is why the topic today is yoga philosophy. Yoga philosophy is an Indian darshana aiming towards removing total sufferings of human life. And these sufferings of human life are unanimously accepted by all Indian philosophies except Charvakas as being sourced in avidya or ignorance of reality. Because we are not knowing who we are, because we don't know what the world is made up of, because we don't know who the creator is, how the world came into existence, we are getting trapped in our day-to-day life, which actually is the cause of our sufferings. So, an attempt in yoga, through yoga practices, is to understand or realize what is my truth, what is my essence, who am I, because only when I come to know that, all my sufferings can be removed. So, you will be surprised to know that whether we are doing Shuddhi Kriyas, whether we are doing asana practice, whether we are doing pranayam practice, the goal is to come to realization of the truth or essence of who am I. And once I know that, all my sufferings can be removed. Having given a brief background of the rationale or purpose of yoga darshana, we are coming to yoga philosophy per se. I have already told that Patanjali Yoga Sutras is the basic text of yoga philosophy. This text of Yoga Sutras, it propounds what is called as Ashtanga Yoga, yoga with 8 limbs. We also refer to this Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali as classical yoga and by the name of Raj Yoga, made popular by Swami Vivekananda, or even we sometimes refer to as traditional yoga, tradition referring to, pointing out to Patanjali's. Of course, in addition to Patanjali's classical yoga or Ashtanga yoga, we have so many other traditions of yoga, starting with, say, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhagavad Gita. We are talking about Mantra Yoga, Laya Yoga, Japa Yoga, Nada Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Swara Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, so many traditions of yoga. But when we come to philosophy per se, Yoga Darshana, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is the basic text of this philosophy. It is the Bible of yoga philosophy. Having said that, even if the traditions of yoga be different, the fact that Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is the basic text of yoga, what it does is, it provides principles for the practice of all yoga practices, irrespective of what tradition it comes from. That is the beauty or the richness of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. For people who know yoga here or Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, we know very well that in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there is no name given of any asana, no name given of any specific pranayam practice, nothing. Patanjali only provides the principles. In fact, if you come to asanas per se, out of the 195 sutras of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, only 3 sutras are devoted to asanas. But these 3 sutras are momentous. The first sutra gives the definition of asana, Sthira Sukham Asanam. Any posture which is stable and comfortable is an asana. The second talks about how to perform an asana. Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatti Bhyam. While doing asanas, your efforts have to progressively reduce. In other words, your performance has to be graceful. And finally, if you do the asana, why are you doing the asana? Tatha dvandhana vighataha. You are doing asanas so that conflicts in life will disappear. Some of you will be surprised to see that Patanjali does not talk about your diabetes going, your excess fats in the body going, or your body becoming fit or looking good in front of the mirror. The purpose of asanas is totally different. It is meant for reaching to a state of mind which is free of conflicts. So we are coming to the next important point of yoga philosophy or Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and that is, what is the meaning of yoga? Yes, one way we are talking about yoga as a philosophy, a darshana. But yoga per se, being a Sanskrit word, it has an etymological meaning. And the most important meaning relevant to Patanjali Yoga Sutras is yoga is equal to samadhi is equal to concentration. This is a very heartening feature to note, because you are as yogic as the power of concentration that is there in your mind. Your yogic nature, your quality of yoga is not depend upon how well you can do asanas, what all acrobatics you can do with your asanas. No, it is not at all involved there. Asanas are means of sharpening or honing the mind, and the goal is to make the mind concentrated. Yoga is equal to concentration. Everything in yoga goes towards making the mind concentrated. So, what we realize is yoga is mind oriented, and this can now be seen in proper perspective when we contrast yoga with what yoga is practiced in the external world, which is totally physically oriented, whereas yoga as a philosophy is mind oriented. It is meant for sharpening the mind, getting the mind concentrated. In fact, we can realize very nicely when I say mind control is equal to concentration of mind. A mind which is concentrated, a mind which is controlled. If you have to control your mind, you have to make your mind concentrated. And everything in yoga, all the practices in yoga go towards concentrating the mind. If you take the yamas, certain rules, regulations which guide your interpersonal relationships, they are not meant for making you a principled person. They are meant for ensuring that your transactions, your relations with people around are harmonious, so that there are no mental conflicts, there are no interpersonal conflicts. Niyamas, which are very personal, they guide you in your personal life. They are meant for ensuring that you don't have any personal conflicts. You are happy with yourself as you are. When you come to asanas, asanas are meant for making the body healthy, physical side, so that no disease of the body will impinge upon your mind. In fact, Patanjali gives in his Yoga Sutras 9 obstacles to yoga, or 9 obstacles for the mind being concentrated. And the first obstacles are called as antarayas. The first obstacle is referred to as vyadhi, physical illness. A sick person cannot become spiritual. You have to ensure that your body is healthy if you have to go ahead in yoga. Again, when you come to pranayam, directly Patanjali says, dharana sucha yogyata manasaha. Pranayam practices make your mind fit for dharana. So, pranayam practices will bring about all your physiological systems, the 9 main systems in the body, to a state of good health. But the goal is, after that health is done, your mind gets concentrated. Pranayam practices, by equalizing your breath to both the nostrils, by making your breathing slow and long, make your mind calm and peaceful. That mind which is calm and peaceful is now in a position to get concentrated in whatever comes in front of it. Again, when you go to pratyahara, the 5th limb, you are withdrawing your sense organs from the external world, becoming more and more introspective. Now you are focusing upon your mind totally. These 5 practices of yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, they are meant for the last 3 practices, which are supposed to be antaranga yoga, higher practice of yoga, esoteric yoga. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi put together is called meditation. Meditation in yoga starts with dharana, concentration. That dharana leads to a state of dhyana where there is no further distraction, disturbance in your mind. You are fixed, your mind is fixed on the object on which it is concentrated. And when that dhyana becomes intense, profound, you experience the magic of Sabija Samadhi, where you become one with the object, you are understanding the essence of the object. For the first time, intuition starts happening. Sabija Samadhi, the first state of Samadhi, is the maximum concentration of the human mind. So, all the practice of yoga takes you towards Samadhi, which is concentration. And now, the most beautiful point, Sabija Samadhi is the starting point of Samadhi, where the mind reaches the highest state of concentration. After that, what happens? After that, that Sabija Samadhi goes towards Nirbija Samadhi, goes towards Dharmamega Samadhi. In the state of Dharmamega Samadhi, self-realization happens, which is called Kaivalya. You realize who you are in reality. So now the beautiful point to remember here is, all the limbs, all the practice of yoga are meant for making the mind concentrated. In yoga, in the language of yoga, in the jargon of yoga, jargon of Sankhya, we say that our mind from Rajas Guna and Tamas Guna should become Sattva Guna, because concentration happens in Sattva Guna. Rajas is a restlessness, Tamas stands for lethargy. So, from a disturbed, distracted, restless state of mind, a lethargic state of mind, yoga is a discipline which transforms these states of mind into sattva state, a state where concentration can happen. And now what? The goal of yoga is not just to become concentrated. The goal of yoga is, after reaching the peak, the acme of concentration, to go even beyond that concentration, to go beyond the mind, to go to the no mind state. So, from restlessness, lethargy, you are coming to a concentrated state of mind of the Sabija Samadhi, and then you are going beyond, transcending the state of maximum concentration. You are reaching a state of no mind, which in Hatha Yoga is called Unmani Avastha, Manormani Avastha, and in that no mind state, you actually experience who you are, what is your reality, what is your essence. In layman's term, if I have to explain, in yoga philosophy, which is based upon Sankhya philosophy, a human being is made up of two parts, the part which is matter and the part which is consciousness. The part which is made of matter is having two repositories in the human being, one is the body, one is the mind. And the part which is consciousness is the consciousness in us. So, we are a composite structure of matter and consciousness. The matter in me is the body and the mind. Incidentally, body is called Stula Sharira, gross body. Mind is called Sukshma Sharira, subtle body. So, gross body, subtle body, and then the consciousness. Yoga philosophy says, out of these two parts in me, my reality is the consciousness. All my sufferings in life happen because of identification with the body and the mind, in the ignorance of reality as my consciousness. So, when I identify with the body and the mind, whatever happens to the body, I take it as happening to me. When the body grows old, I am saying I am growing old, so my problem. So, whatever happens to the body is appropriated, whatever happens to the mind is appropriated as happening to me. So, when the mind is sad, I say I am sad. Yoga says, neither are you growing old, nor are you becoming sad or depressed or unhappy. All these are happening to the body and the mind, which is not your real self. Your real self is the consciousness. The question is, yoga philosophy with yoga practices takes you through the discipline of the practices to the realization that you are not the body and the mind, you are beyond the mind, you are the consciousness per se. When that realization happens, Kaivalya takes place, all the sufferings in life are over. This, in short, is yoga philosophy. Thank you very much.